We're going to take a look at the New Balance Fuel Cell RC Elite 2, which is expected to launch in July 2021. Price is not known yet, but should be around $200, $225. We'll get confirmation. We have multiple pairs in test with all kinds of our wonderful contributors, and we're going to have full multi-tester reviews real soon, but I wanted to give you my first run impressions. Hello everybody, let's take a look at the Fuel Cell RC Elite 2. So the RC Elite 2 is clearly a max cushion marathon racing shoe from New Balance. In terms of its stack height, it should approach 40 millimeters at the heel, 30 millimeters at the forefoot, so just at the IAAF standard for the maximum cushion in such a shoe. Now, it has the same fuel cell ACL or autoclaved foam as version 1 had. It's also the same low density, high rebound foam as the excellent Rebel V2 has. But we've got much more of it. We've got about 8 millimeters more stack height than the RC Elite 1. As we come in at 7.55 ounces, 214 grams in my US 8.5, so about 7.8 ounces, 221 grams in a US 9, so that's about 13 grams or 0.35 ounces more than version 1, but with 8 millimeters more stack height. So what is New Balance providing here in terms of the upper? It's an engineered knit or a knit upper. It is a single layer. The overlays provide the structure. As you can see right through it. It has a much larger tongue kind of configuration than version 1. And I'll show you a picture side by side. So I tried them both on side by side, and I really like this tongue arrangement. Less kind of bite already, and I haven't even run them yet. In terms of fit, I've just tried them on. It's a performance fit, somewhat more of a snugger fit than version 1, which I kind of found kind of sloppy. I even laced to the rear holes in version 1 to hold the foot. Here we really have a very nice racing type fit. The heel counter is moderately firm, maybe a touch firmer than version 1. They were actually very easy to put on. Now, underfoot, there are some significant changes as well. As you can see, side by side here, I'm going to show you the older version. We now have a different outsole in the front. Version 1 had a Japanese Japanese-made outsole of hard rubber nubs embedded in a plate. It had great grip and kind of a cushioning feel from those nubs. Here we have I would say, more kind of conventional outsole. We'll see how it performs. So one thing I've done is I've just kind of walked around a bit in them, and what I noticed is a somewhat more stable heel, if softer, walking around than version 1. And I also noticed a much more distinct kind of front toe spring. It's not a roll kind of thing as in the Endorphin Pro. It's kind of a little bit longer and very pronounced. The cushioning, definitely, just walking around with 8 millimeters more of it, is quite a bit different, quite a bit more and softer, even though it's exactly the same ACL or autoclaved EVA TPU blend as version 1. There's just more of it, 8 millimeters more of it. So this foam is low density and high rebound, and that's something we certainly felt in version 1. We're going to take them out for a run. I'm not going to do an A/B test because of the significant difference in stack heights, but just walking around, I found the version 2 to be softer, if you will, more cushioned, given all that extra stack height, and definitely with that more pronounced toe spring. So this is a very exciting shoe from New Balance. Let's see how they run. lobster buoys will be going in soon. Let's talk about the fit of our RC Elite 2 here. So I was out for 10K in the rain, light rain, and I am at my true to size for a change, 8.5 size, and the fit is superb here. This is a bit more secure upper than version 1, but there's plenty of midfoot room, plenty of toe box room. We won't call it the widest. The knit didn't seem to stretch too much at all, really. Just a little bit more on my right narrower foot, but I didn't really notice it running. Just when I stopped, it seemed a bit looser. One thing I think is really cool is this tongue, but also look how wide the lacing throat is. I think this gives a little bit of more kind of forward momentum and flex the foot, while our heel is super well held at the same time. So it kind of feels like it drives you forward. That high tongue, no issues whatsoever. I kind of like a big wraparound tongue. There's no booty here. The other overlays seem to hold me super well. This is really a great upper. It reminds me a bit of the Adios Pro with a bit less rounded front of the toe box, and maybe a touch more midfoot room, and a touch more, I think, heel hold. So it's really good. So let's talk about the ride. Okay, I always like to give you the scoop straight after the run. It's pretty miserable. It was pretty miserable. Good running weather, but in the 40s and raining, as you can see. So my first run was a progression run. I was particularly pleased as I'm nursing a bit of a sore hamstring. In terms of my splits and heart rate, I was very pleased to see 146 average heart rate, which is good for that pace. So let's talk about the ride here. Well, it is a fantastic soft ride that's stable, in no way mushy, with a very stable heel for all the softness. I think that comes from the rubber, which my sense is a bit firmer and more extensive than the first version. In terms of the front rocker, oh my goodness, walking around it was very noticeable, kind of a longer, snappier kind of feel up front. On the run though, it becomes kind of a long, smooth spring rocker. It's quite distinctive. It's less kind of abrupt than the Endorphin Pro. It's much more kind of smooth and flowing than, say, the Next Percent. It doesn't have, of course, the air pod of the Alpha Fly, or its kind of final kind of drop-in of soft foam. It's just a very smooth, elegant feel. My run was a progression, and for me, pretty good. I got down to average 7:54 from a bit of a slow per mile, 10K. And on the run, it felt exactly as advertised, a marathon racer. My legs were well cushioned. This foam is soft, but the implementation of the plate keeps it all together. I particularly noted the forefoot felt very stable. There's definitely some bounce. The outsole performed well. I missed the other one a bit. Seemed to grip well on the wet pavement. Maybe not quite as good as the other one. I did pick up a big stone in here at one point, but I don't know, you usually won't be running on gravel. As I said on the fit section, the rear hold is really exceptional. There's still a fairly broad fit through the midfoot, as in the first version I found, but here this new knit, they call it knit, but it's really kind of very thin, but quite dense, but super well ventilated, held me really well. One thing I really noticed is this tongue and sort of the breadth of the opening here. I really had the sense that my foot was allowed to move forward while being well held. It was very comfortable. The tongue, as you can see, is unpadded, very broad. I like when they do that because it really gives a really good wrap of the foot to go with the laces, and it tends to also cut down on any lace bite, and there was zero here. So it's a few quick comparisons, because we're going to have other videos and a big multi-tester review with folks that are yet much faster than me and younger. Reminded me quite a bit of the Adios Pro, but more stable at the heel and more stable at the forefoot, although didn't have that those energy rod kind of impulse, sort of your toes working in the mix. But it isn't really as monolithic a plate as some of the carbon shoes. For example, the Endorphin Pro, which has that very distinct speed roll at the front. This is much, much more forgiving. I really didn't notice the plate at all in terms of any harshness, but I sure felt its impulse. I did notice my heart rate average was about 146, which is pretty darn good for me at those paces. New Balance said that with the additional stack height and the slight increase in weight, they did a lot of testing, and the additional stack height and the redesign of the plate actually led to a better efficiency than and economy than the RC Elite 1. So I think it was a positive change, because this is a much more forgiving shoe. Now, in terms of ride compared to the RC Elite 1, well, the RC Elite 1 felt like a kind of more conventional trainer, really. It's definitely bouncy. It has the same kind of bounce, but it's lower stack, and you'll feel more of the road. There's a bit more road feel, but not as much impulse. In terms of a few other comparisons, now the Alpha Fly, similar stack heights, the big 40 or thereabouts at the heel. I found the Alpha Fly a bit less, a bit too soft, really, at the heel. I worry that when tired, it might just get too soft. It's really designed, the Alpha Fly, to get on its pod, whereas here there's a more forgiving flow. So I would say this shoe, for the elites, but also some of us who aren't quite as elite, is a really good option, because that heel, even though it's soft, but the rubber and the overall geometry, I think, will get you in less trouble than, say, the Alpha Fly. A few others, the new Puma, softer yet not quite as dynamic. I ran just about a few seconds per mile faster on the 10K loop today than I did in the Puma. The Puma's a softer and lower stack, but it's also quite a bit lighter. So that's something to consider, although I don't think you should have any concerns here about the weight of our RC Elite 2, which, to remind myself, is in a US 9, will be about 7.8 ounces or 221 grams. So for comparison, the next percent comes in at 6.5 ounces, 184 grams, with a touch more forefoot stack. It's a bit firmer, I find, and a bit flatter in feel due to its plate. The Endorphin Pro from Saucony, a teeny bit lighter at 7.5 ounces, 221 grams, with that aggressive final toe off, again firmer. Then the Adios Pro, a touch heavier at 7.95 ounces, 224 grams. Almost as soft, not quite, but with those energy rods in the front. Finally, our Puma, coming in just a touch over the next percent at 6.74 ounces, 191 grams, but it's lower stack and it is softer. And as such, also somewhat firmer in feel. So here you have really, I would call this a second generation marathon racer of the super shoe variety, as it goes all the way up to kind of the maximum allowed stack. And it implements it really well with a soft, forgiving, but also very well balanced kind of flow to the ride. We're going to have many more comparisons in our full written reviews and some other videos, but those are my initial takes on the New Balance RC Fuel Cell RC Elite 2. Thank you very much for watching.